All right, welcome. Today we are jumping headfirst into a pretty wild theory that connects a recent spike in oil prices to what some are calling a hidden economic war. Now, this is a seriously complex web of global finance and geopolitics, and we're going to deconstruct it piece by piece based on the source material. So let's get right into it. Everything really kicks off with this one accusation. You can think of it as the spark that lights the whole fire for the theory we're exploring today. The source makes it really clear that naming institutions like these, that wasn't some random comment, it was a calculated shot in a much bigger fight. And that really is the million-dollar question for our whole explainer today, isn't it? According to this analysis, these public callouts are just the very, very tip of the iceberg. They're supposedly a signal, pointing to a massive financial war being fought completely behind the scenes. Our job here is to follow the breadcrumbs that the source has laid out. Okay, so the first piece of this whole puzzle is all about the price of oil. The theory we're digging into doesn't look at a recent price spike and just see, normal market forces. Nope. It suggests that something way more deliberate was going on. So here's how the source lays out this oil gambit. The claim is that these huge financial players basically engineered a price spike, what they call a kill shot. But the theory also points to this immediate, really powerful countermove, lifting certain sanctions on Russia. And the whole strategic goal of that move? Well, it was to let Russian oil pour back onto the world market, flood the supply, and make that engineered price spike totally collapse. Now here's where the story takes a really interesting turn. The source argues that this fight over oil prices, that wasn't even the main event. It was just the opening shot, the first move in a much bigger, undeclared war that's aimed at the very foundation of a particular global financial system. So if this is a hidden war, who's the enemy? Well, the source identifies a very specific target, and it's not a person or even a country, really. It's the financial system it calls the City of London and the whole economic model that it represents. And just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about here, the source drops this absolutely staggering statistic. It claims that nearly 40% of all global dirty money gets laundered through London and its crown dependencies. I mean, that's a shocking number, and it's meant to frame this as, not a bug in the system, but its main feature. And where's all this money supposedly coming from? The source is very direct. It calls out what it says are the core revenue streams of this whole model: the global drug trade, the arms trade, and basically criminal finance of every possible kind. The key point here is the claim that this isn't just a side business, it's the fundamental engine driving the whole thing. So, in response to this system, the theory lays out what it calls a coordinated economic counterattack. And these aren't just random policy choices. They're framed as very specific, very calculated moves on a global chessboard. Let's take a look at the strategy. You can really see this supposed shift in strategy right here. The source contrasts the traditional drug war, which is all about seizures and arrests, with a totally new way of thinking it calls American system economics. Under this new model, the goal isn't just stopping illegal stuff. It's about creating a whole new economic system based on industrialization and countries working together to develop. And here are the specific moves in that counterattack, according to the source. It's a multi-front strategy, right? You've got hitting cartel money directly, partnering with nations in Latin America to develop crucial resources like lithium and oil, and then actively working to pull major international investment away from London and bring it to the United States instead. And this quote from the source, wow, it really just ties it all together. From Venezuela to Argentina to the Middle East, the theory is that these actions are not disconnected at all. They're all part of one single coordinated strategy designed to break the other side's control over raw materials and money. But this theory goes even deeper. It starts to reinterpret geopolitical ideas that we all hear about all the time. It basically argues that we have to look past the public definitions of phrases like the special relationship to really get what's going on with the power dynamics. Here's a great example. The source looks at a social media post that everyone saw as a dig at a UK politician. But this theory says, nope, the message wasn't even for the politician. It was a direct signal to the financial power structure that it calls the city, which it claims is the real power behind the throne. So here it is, the redefinition. According to the source, the real special relationship is actually a three-tiered system. Step 1, the City of London designs the rules for global finance. Step 2, Wall Street puts those rules into action inside the U.S. And step 3, the U.S. military is then used to enforce this financial order all over the world. So, when you hear politicians talking about the rules-based international order? Well, this theory argues that that's not really about traditional diplomacy. It's actually code for this very specific three-step system of financial power and control. Okay, so all of this, the oil gambit, the economic counterattack, the redefinition of global power, it's all building to one huge, dramatic, and kind of historic conclusion about the very idea of national sovereignty. The theory literally draws a straight line back to American history. It frames this current conflict as a modern-day declaration of independence. 250 years ago, the fight was for political freedom from an empire. Today, this theory argues, the fight is for economic freedom from a global financial empire. So that's the bottom line. The ultimate thesis here is that what we're witnessing, according to the source, is basically a second American Revolution. It's a hidden war to take back economic sovereignty from a global financial system that, in this view, has been calling the shots for decades. So there you have it, a theory of a hidden war for economic independence, all pieced together from these seemingly disconnected events. The source definitely paints a compelling and, yes, very controversial picture of a global power struggle happening just under the surface. The final question, like always, is what do you see when you look at the board? Thanks for tuning in.